Okay, this is my quick part 3 because I was this close to finishing for the Idaho 4 Dateline episode for Bryan Kohberger and talking about that whole case. And so this is my final parts and notes of that episode. It was about an hour and 23 minutes. And so I'm summarizing it for you now. There's 2 parts before this, so make sure you go watch those. So we left off on November 22nd at 7:09, where he looked at K-bar sheaths and did not purchase, and at the same time tried to delete his activities. Again, I'm going to hold off my opinion on that, just because I would like to hear from the experts during trial about their expert opinions on this whole click activity, because the way the defense made it sound that click activity doesn't necessarily mean you're clicking on something, and so I would like to hear from the experts. That being said, they said that he Googled, searched his name again, and then watched videos of, I'm assuming, of the trial or of Ted Bundy. He seems to be into that one. And then December 6th, searching Amazon K-bar knife and sheath again. And then that was the same week that the Bolo, Be on the Lookout for the White Vehicle, came out. They do cop to the idea that the FBI uploaded his DNA information to MyHeritage. And that the platform's term and conditions prohibit law enforcement usage. They had some lady come on, I didn't get her title, but that she was part of, I think, like an FBI profile or something. She said that it's guidelines, but not exactly a law, so that they can go through the back door and do this anyway, even if they want to, if they think there's precedence to do that. But it goes against their own policies. Then they talk about December 15th, where you see Bryan pulled over and the body cam footage of that twice while he's on his way home. They start making comments about how his father's feeling, which I don't like, because you don't have direct quotes from the father, so too, you're surmising at this point. And Howard Bloom tries to say that the father is now getting suspicious of Bryan because he lives in the area and he has a white car, and that's what they're saying be on the lookout for. But my note there was saying, who are you to speak for his family? I'm sure his family will say what they feel when they feel it. They say December 21st, he takes 2 more hoodie selfies, and that he's going through his gloves, his garbage, and using gloves. But then he's OCD, so that could be part of that. They do they grab the trash. But why not? My note was saying, why didn't you just pull him in for a sample and get his DNA that way? I don't understand why they're going this whole, in the night, got to get his trash and pull it, and then try to do this backwards way of trying to connect him to it through his father's DNA. It seemed bizarre. And then how do you know Bryan's DNA wasn't in that trash? Why are you going through his father's? They said that Bryan listened to a rendition of the song Criminal by Britney Spears, and that it was like a slower down version of it on December 29th before midnight, and that that was the same night that the tactical team came into his house. They said they zip tied his parents, which I felt was a little excessive. They're not the ones who are, they're not the ones that they're looking for, so it's like, why couldn't you just pull them aside and have them sit in a cop car or something like that, or talk to them calmly? Why are you zip tying them and traumatizing them? And you're traumatizing them for this. So then they make the statement that he says, "Can we get a cup of coffee when this is over?" to the cops. Where is that written down that he said that? Second of all, we have no footage of him saying that. So this is just outlandish statements. So that really bothers me when they're putting things like that into this, because then it paints this picture that Bryan's doing this stuff. But I want to see the hard evidence that he did this. I want to have testimonies from the officers that heard him say stuff like that. I want to see potential body cam footage of him saying stuff like that. Did he write down that he said that? Did his parents overhear him say that? I mean, come on. Then they talked about the IGG and saying it will be treated as a tip. So therefore, when the FBI went behind their own policy and went and did the whole testing and putting his information into MyHeritage, which they're not allowed to do, because they're only going to treat it as a said tip, they don't have to be in trouble for doing that. There was a Greg from the Idaho Innocence Project that came on, and the state, he talked about how the state didn't test the other samples that were found at the scene. We still don't know why they did not do that. I remember their explanation at the time was that it would replace Bryan's profile if they tried to test other people's. I've never known it to do that. you're just adding additional people to the system. But as far as like replacing him and taking him off of being a match, it makes no sense. So this Greg from the Innocence Project said a quote, and I really liked it because it is important. And it says, when you want to take someone's life, all your questions should be answered. And that's the essence what they're trying to do here. They want to take Brian's life. He's on for capital murder and for the death penalty. And all these questions that we have watching from the outside, but also people watching from the inside, all those questions should be answered if you're going to take someone's life. And the very last part that I wanted to point out is they talked about how Dylan was shown a picture of Brian and she did not recognize him. So my question would be, what picture was she shown of him? Is it one of these hoodie selfies that they're putting out there, or is it his mugshot? You know, I want to know what type of picture she was shown and then when, and yeah. So that was my recap of what I would encourage you guys to go watch it. It's on Peacock right now. Do a free trial if you can, or if you have it, go watch it. It's from Dateline, and it's called the Idaho. That says The Terrible Night on King Road is the episode title. So I would recommend you guys go see that for yourselves. Maybe watch these videos first and then, or watch them after. Get your own opinion first and then watch what I say and see if you agree or what's going on. I'd love your opinions on it. So make sure you comment down below, like and follow for more because I am covering this case the best that I can. I know there's some professionals out there that cover it right away and they post, but I work full time, so I'm just a layman person trying to understand what is going on here, because if things are not addressed in this case, we are all potentially at subject for something like this to happen to us if we don't watch this and make sure that this goes properly the way that it needs to. And what I mean by that is that if Brian's guilty, then like he said, all the questions that we have should be answered and it should be clear as day that this person did this. But when there's questions that have not been answered, that's concerning for the rest of us because we could all be charged with something that we didn't do, and that's terrifying.